occupying till he comes at Southwest Prophecy Ministries. This is David Schnitker with today's Southwest Prophecy Ministries program. Just a reminder that these programs, my friends, are supported by your gifts to this ministry. Simply go to www.swpm.us to contribute. That's www.swpm.us. Well, ready or not, 2017 is upon us. We're already through the first month of the year. What an appropriate time to consider the seasons of life. Solomon reflected on these seasons when he wrote, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born and a time to die." Ecclesiastes 3, verses 1 and 2. It appears that the Scripture deals with the seasons of life in terms of the activities that dominate these various seasons. These dominant activities are preparation, production, provision, and protection. These four activities are seen in Proverbs 24, verses 3 through 7. Let me read these verses. "Through wisdom is an house builded, and by understanding it is established. And by knowledge shall the chambers be filled with all precious and pleasant riches. A wise man is strong, yea, a man of knowledge increaseth strength. For by wise counsel thou shalt make thy war, and in multitude of counselors there is safety. Wisdom is too high for a fool. He openeth not his mouth in the gate." I'm dealing with the seasons of life separately from these verses so that God can teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. On our previous programs, we have dealt with the season of preparation, the season of production, and the season of provision. Today we deal with the season of protection. In the Hebrew culture of the Old Testament, older men who had proven faithful in the earlier seasons of life, in the family, in business, in religious affairs, would often become community elders. In the ancient Near East, including the nation of Israel, society was ruled by a body of elders. Simply defined, government by elders is corporate rule by the qualified, older, leading men of society. They would often sit at the gates of the city, mediating disputes, offering advice, and administering justice. For example, we read in Proverbs 31, verse 23, "Her husband is known in the gates, when he sitteth among the elders of the land." While our communities in the modern era are not governed by elders, there are similar positions of authority in civil society, such as judges, city council members, school board members, as well as state and national representatives. Following this biblical model, the season of protection is the season for older Christians who have successfully navigated the earlier seasons of life to devote their resources and social influence to enter the halls of civil authority, to seek justice for all as a senior statesman to your community, state, or nation. Let me give an example of a godly Christian who, especially in the latter season of life, protected the community as a statesman. William Wilberforce was a British statesman and reformer in the early 19th century. He was elected to Parliament at age 21, and following his conversion to Christ a few years later, he became involved in the fight to abolish the slave trade in England. He became the abolitionist movement's chief spokesman in the House of Commons. In 1797, Wilberforce secured enactment of legislation prohibiting the further importation of slaves in England. Not content with that partial victory, he continued the struggle in the House of Commons for the complete abolition of slavery, and in 1823 was a founder of the Anti-Slavery Society. Ill health forced his retirement from Parliament in 1825. The Emancipation Bill abolishing slavery became law 1 month after his death. The British evangelist John Wesley wrote to this great Christian statesman saying, "Unless the divine power has raised you up, I see not how you can go through your glorious enterprise. Unless God has raised you up for this very thing, you will be worn out by the opposition of men and devils. But if God be for you, who can be against you? Are all of them together stronger than God? Oh, be not weary in well-doing. Go on in the name of God and in the power of his might, till even American slavery, the vilest that ever saw the sun, shall vanish away before it. That he who has guided you from your youth up may continue to strengthen in this and all things is the prayer of your affectionate servant, John Wesley." Wilberforce was a great Christian statesman. Let me challenge you, friend, regardless of the season of life you are presently in, to think of old age as a time of your greatest and widest influence. Do not think of your latter years as a time of retirement, but as a time of re-inspirement. Our society is in desperate need of wise and godly older people, men and women who are ready to leverage their educational, financial, spiritual, and business experience toward the political influence of a senior statesman. Be committed to running the race to the finish line and ending well. We read in Psalm 92, verses 12 through 14, "The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree. He shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon. Those that be planted in the house of the Lord shall flourish in the courts of our God. They shall still bring forth fruit in old age. They shall be fat and flourishing." Friends, we are out of time for today. This concludes our series on the seasons of life. I trust this has been helpful to you, regardless of what season of life you are in. Be sure and join us next week. Until then, this is David Schnitger. Thanks for listening.